It's time to take a look at the Champions League. Yes, so the Champions League has finally returned for the 23-24 season, and it's honestly looking like a pretty good season for the Champions League. There's some very interesting teams in here. We're going to predict how I think the groups will finish. Did this last season, and I think I did fairly well if I remember correctly, so hopefully I can repeat that again this season. There are a few rogue shouts in here and a few that are just quite nailed on, to be perfectly honest with you. So yeah, we're going to jump into it. We're going to start with Group A. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. And in fourth place, bottom of the group, I've got FC Copenhagen. Now, they didn't really have the best of qualifying rounds, to be honest, as there weren't any big blowouts against teams, unless you're Breivik. Probably butchered that pronunciation, but to be honest, I don't think Copenhagen have what it takes to finish above any of their opponents. So, unfortunately for the Danish champions, I reckon they'll finish bottom of the group. I can't really see them doing anything against the teams in their group. Maybe they can grab a shock result here or there, but I can't see them getting anything from this campaign, to be honest. And then we move on to third place, and I've got Galatasaray. Galatasaray are gracing the Champions League for the first time in 3 seasons, and it's with a pretty stacked squad too. They've been very active in the summer, making Icardi permanent and bringing the likes of Zaha, Ziyech and Sanchez, among a whole host of other players as well. Icardi's been very impressive for the Turkish side, already netting 7 in 7 appearances in all competitions this season, and he was on fire last season as well. Unfortunately though, I don't think they're good enough to finish above the other 2 sides in this group, so I can see them dropping down, but I'm sure they give a good accounting of themselves nonetheless. And then in second place, we've got Manchester United. Manchester United returned to the Champions League after a very successful maiden campaign under Ten Hag. They played well and ended the season on a high, but this season has so far been quite a different story. They've not looked like the clinical attacking side they were last season, and the club seems to be going through some internal turmoil at the moment too. Big summer signing Holland is largely unproven too, but he is only young, so given the time he will definitely come good, but I'm not sure he'll be able to do it in this Champions League campaign. Maybe, we'll see how far they go. I don't really see United struggling in the group. I don't think they can top the group either. There is definitely one team who should be topping this group, and that is Bayern Munich. Bayern look very strong this season, and the signing of Harry Kane is going to be a huge boon for them in this Champions League campaign. They've already strengthened their squad over the summer, with Kim Min-jae being another big addition to bolster their defence. Tuchel will have had a pre-season with this side to now fully implement his ideals and get this side playing the way he wants. I thought United could come close, but ultimately this squad looks too strong for them to overcome. Harry Kane has elevated this already strong team, and it just makes them one of my picks to go deep in this competition this season. It's looking very good for Bayern this season. They could definitely challenge for the title, I think, because they are one of the strongest squads this season for sure. So moving to Group B, and at the bottom of the group I have Sevilla. While they won Europa last season, they also looked like relegation candidates throughout the season too, and also are sitting rock bottom of La Liga without a single point. So it's not looking good for them. Their business hasn't been great this season, but they're currently strapped for cash as well. So they've seen a lot of outgoings, and the adequate replacements have not been brought in. Ramos is an amazing signing for Sevilla, but his fitness is a big issue, and while he can play amazingly when he is fit, it's just him getting there is the main problem. But he does bring experience and some leadership that this side is severely lacking. But unfortunately, I don't think him will be able to carry this very lackluster side. I can't even see them dropping down like they normally do. I just think they'll drop out of the group, bottom of the group. I can't see them doing anything this season, to be honest. It's not looking good for them at all. And then in third place, I've got Lens. Lens have not gone off to the best of starts this season, but that happens when you lose some of your best players. In their case, Openda and Fofana both left. However, they did bring in replacements, but they're not at the quality of the players that left, in my opinion. But it'd be very hard to replace those players anyway. They really pushed last season, finishing just up a point behind PSG, but have yet to recapture that form this season. They do have big Bryce Samba in net, who I'm very excited to see playing in Europe. He thoroughly deserves it. What a player. But unfortunately, I can't see them progressing any further in the Champions League. But I do see them dropping down and being able to go on a little run in Europa. And then move on to second place, and I've got PSV. PSV were Eredivisie runners-up last season and are currently leaders at the time of recording as well. It's their first time back in the Champions League for a while, and I think they'll progress this time around. While they did lose Xavi Simons and Sangare, they brought in a litany of brilliant signings that have strengthened their already good-looking side. However, I don't think it's enough to win the group because, well, you'll see in a second, because they'll definitely have a good accounting of themselves, but I'm sure they'll secure a second place finish. I don't think Lens or Sevilla will have enough to overtake them, so I think they'll get through. And then in first place, I have Arsenal. I think it's fairly easy to say that Arsenal will top the group because in reality, they should. Now, they had a very impressive run last season, being top of the league for a majority of it, only falling at the final hurdle. But they possess a very young, very strong squad that can play very good football. Now, this campaign hasn't gone off to the best of starts for Arsenal, and they may face a few little stumbles here and there, as these are very challenging teams to face. But with the squad they have, they should be topping this group no problem. They strengthened an already strong side, but also did bring in Kai Havertz, who just isn't cooking at all and hasn't been cooking in London since he's been here. Other than that though, they've got a very strong squad who should progress top of the group, and it'd be very, very shocking if they didn't. And then move on to Group C, and in 4th place I've got Braga. Braga finished last season in 3rd and successfully navigated Champions League qualification to secure a return to this competition after such a long absence. They've had a decent window, bringing in some very interesting players, and have strengthened their already solid side. Their season though has not gone off to the best of starts domestically. They currently find themselves in 8th, and performances just haven't really been at the level they should be if you want to be challenging for the Champions League. So I can't really see them progressing any further, to be honest. I think they'll just bottom the group. And then in 3rd place, we've got Union Berlin. Union Berlin were only promoted to the Bundesliga in 2019, and they now find themselves in the Champions League after finishing 4th last season. They were even pushing Bayern for a time too. Like, there was a chance for them to win the league at points last season. It was crazy. Such an incredible progression. You know, they're an extremely well-run side, and it makes for a brilliant story as well. Just like Luton getting promoted to the Premier League, you know, going from the 3rd tier of German football to the Champions League is just incredible. They've once again made smart signings this summer, and despite their slow start, they still look very, very solid. Unfortunately though, I do think the round of 16 is a step too far for them this season. Maybe in another group they could have sneaked through, but I think they'll just drop down for this one. But hey, for a first Champions League campaign, you can't really complain. And then in 2nd place, I've got Napoli. Last season's Scudetto winners have had a very interesting summer. The appointment of Rudy Garcia was a very strange move, and personally I would not have done it. But they have amazingly kept a hold of most of the pieces of that league-winning side, most notably Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia being the main ones who stayed. They did lose out on Kim Min-jae, but when Bayern come calling, I think a lot of players would go to Bayern. They currently find themselves 5th in Serie A, and we're looking to improve on those performances. But despite that slow start domestically, I do see them progressing in the Champions League. They have a very, very good side, and are going to cause pretty much every team in this group some issues. I think, especially Braga, Union Berlin as well. But I think they'll even push the side I've got topping the group somewhat. And that team topping the group, I don't think anyone would expect any less. It's Real Madrid. Now, it's a Benzema-less Real Madrid, as he's not been replaced, and Courtois is currently out injured as well. Other than that, I think Real have had a very solid window, and I think the main addition, Jude Bellingham, is gonna cook for them. You know, he looks really good this season. He's currently La Liga top scorer. So no Benzema, no problem. Real have been hit with quite a few injuries, but they're still playing very well and have an extremely solid side. They should quite easily top the group, but if by some miracle they don't, they're still going to get 2nd. They're still going to progress, and Jude Bellingham is going to have a hell of a campaign, because what a player, man. What a player. And then move on to Group D, and in 4th place we've got RB Salzburg. RB Salzburg have shockingly gone off to a strong start in the Austrian Bundesliga under their new manager Gerhard Struber. They have a shocking amount of injuries though, and have been so unlucky in that department. It almost makes me feel bad for the franchise side. Almost. They saw Okafor leave in the summer, but knowing their business, they already have their replacement, and they already have about 3 replacements for him. Though, unfortunately, for the Red Bull outfit, I do not see them making it out of the group though, or barely making it into Europa, to be honest. I think they're just going to get battered pretty much in this group. I don't think they'll do much of note, to be honest. And in 3rd place, I've got Real Sociedad. The Basque side finished 4th last season and currently find themselves in 10th. So not the best of starts, but they are currently unbeaten, so there's that, I guess. They've brought in the likes of Andre Silva, Kieran Tierney and Arzan Zakarian to strengthen their side, with Kubo cooking too. All in all, a very decent side, and under their manager, they're going to be a very, very tough side to break down. I can't see them progressing through the Champions League, but I do see them dropping down. I think they'll just perform better than RB Salzburg, but I think it'll be very close between the two sides, to be honest. And then moving to 2nd place, and I've got Benfica. Premier League champions and current 2nd place side Benfica are once again back in the Champions League. They saw some big departures with the likes of Vlachimoros, Grimaldo and Gonçalo Ramos all departing, but they were very active in the window, seeing Angel Di Maria return on a free, as well as Orkun Koku and Arthur Cabral also arriving for fees. I know I've probably butchered the pronunciation of all those players I've mentioned, but hey, I'm an Englishman. what do you expect? They look good, and while I can't see them topping the group, I do see them progressing. They should be fairly comfortably progressing in second. Real Sociedad may push them a bit, but I think it's between Sociedad and Salzburg for third and fourth, to be honest. So I think Benfica got this pretty much in the bag. Then in first place, topping the group, I've got Inter Milan. Inter reached the finals last season and finished third domestically, and also currently find themselves top of Serie A after dominating AC Milan in their derby. Inter saw many notable departures in the summer, but also very active in the window, bringing some good players and replacements for those they lost. They're looking very good this season, and I've no doubts they'll top the group. They're a very strong side, playing some good football this season, and honestly, they're a good shout for Serie A champions as well. I can't lie. Then we move on to Group E, and in fourth place I've got Celtic. Reigning Scottish champions Celtic are once again in the Champions League and will be looking to go further than they did last season. Unfortunately for the Hoops though, they are without Ange Postecoglou, which will be a big loss, but they have seen the return of Brendan Rodgers, who did well last time in Scotland, and despite that Scottish Cup loss, they're doing what they normally do in Scotland, let's be real. Losing Jota was a big loss for them too, but they've strengthened both attack and defence, so they still look very, very solid. But they never really kick on in Europe, and I see the same happening here, to be honest. I think they'll bomb the group, to be honest. I can't see them doing much, if anything, against these sides. And then we move on to third place, and I've got Lazio. You know, they finished second in Serie A last season and have returned to the Champions League, but have not been enjoying a successful start to this season. They lost a big player in Milinkovic-Savic, but have brought in some interesting players during the summer, with Daichi Kamada being a huge addition for their attack. Castellanos as well also looks like a good attacking addition after impressing for Girona last season. I feel like there are going to be some tense clashes between Lazio and Celtic this season. If you know their political leanings for each side, it's going to be a very tasty to watch those two sides going at it, but I think Lazio will just drop down to Europa. I can't see them progressing through this group. But I think they could push Feyenoord, to be honest. Kind of spoiled who I've got in second, but I do have Feyenoord. The reigning Dutch champions are back in the Champions League after a few seasons out, and you know, despite finding themselves currently in third, they've strengthened throughout the squad and also managed to keep a hold of Arne Slot, who is also linked with Tottenham. Slot has got them playing some good football and has made them quite a hard side to break down, but I just can't see them topping the group because of who I've got topping. But I think they'll give a good accounting of themselves this season, and it'd be the Tottenham manager derby as we see Celtic face Feyenoord. You know, Tottenham wanted Slot, couldn't get Slot, so they got Postecoglou, you know. Sort of a little link there, I guess. Then in first place, I've got Atletico Madrid. Atleti found themselves in third last season after a very rocky start and currently occupy 7th place. They've seen quite a few departures, but were equally as active in the window too, bringing the likes of Griezmann and Azpilicueta. They saw João Felix depart, and while that will be a hole to fill, I reckon their summer business has gone some way of doing that. I think Simeone's men will top this group. They play some good football at times, and while they've been a bit hit or miss, you know, Griezmann is looking good. They've got Memphis Depay as well, who seems to be some good form as well. So I think they should do pretty well this season. They should do well in the league, and I think they'll do well in the Champions League as well. I think they'll top their group. Will they go far? Maybe not. I'm not sure if they've got the quality to do that, but they'll definitely top their group for sure. And then we'll move on to Group F. This is probably the group of death. The group of death. Yeah, it's a crazy group. Really looking forward to seeing how this one progresses. Bottom of the group, I've got Dortmund. Dortmund missed out on the title last season by a whisker, as they were held on the final day by Mainz. They've had a thoroughly Dortmund-esque start to the season as well, so it's not looking too good. However, they cashed in on Bellingham during the summer, and as well as letting some players go for free too. So they've lost quite a few sides, arguably look a bit weaker than they did last season, but Sabitzer was a good signing for them. Obviously not a Bellingham replacement, but still a good player in his own right. I think the absence of Bellingham though will have a big impact on this season. It's still that star power that they don't have anymore, and while it may be a rogue shout from me, I don't see them progressing this season. I don't even see them dropping down, to be honest. I just don't think they have enough for it this season. But hey, Dortmund will probably surprise me. They normally do. Then in third place, I've got Newcastle United. Newcastle marked an emphatic return to the Champions League by finishing 4th last season, and while this season hasn't got to the greatest starts for the Magpies, they've still performed fairly well. They've made some brilliant signings throughout the summer, and the Champions League football at St James's Park is going to be absolutely mental. It remains to be seen whether they can start performing like they did last season. You know, the defence was amazing last season. It doesn't seem to be that good this season. Their midfield looks unbalanced like it was last season. And their attack, it's been all over the place. But I've got faith in them. I think they'll finish third in the group. I think they'll just drop down. I don't think they'll progress out of the group, to be honest. Like, the other sides in this group are just very, very strong, very established European sides. But I think there's no shame in dropping down when it's your first season back in the Champions League in so long, so I think they'll finish third. And then in second place, I've got PSG. The French champions once again find themselves in the Champions League, and it'll be very interesting to see how they do this season. You know, PSG don't have a lot of luck with the Champions League, to be honest. So, yeah, will this be the one to break the curse? I mean, probably not, but we'll see. They've seen a lot of departures in the summer, including Neymar and Messi, but despite them being amazing players, I think this will work out in their favour, especially under Enrique. I mean, we haven't seen that so far domestically, you know, they're currently 4th in Ligue 1, but they've brought some brilliant players with the likes of Kolo Muani, Ugarte and Ekitike, and I'm sure they'll progress out of the group, no problem, you know. This is PSG, they're a very, very good side, and while they've been up and down recently, I think Enrique's a brilliant manager. He's a perfectionist, we've seen him shouting at his players when they've not done what he wants them to do, so yeah, I'm sure they'll progress out of the group. I'm not sure they can top it. They may be pushing with the top side to who gets the top of the group, but they'll definitely progress either way, whether it's top or second, but I just think it'll be second. And then in first place, I have AC Milan. AC Milan finished 4th last season and currently found themselves in 3rd after getting dominated by the Milano rivals, but I don't think that is a sign of things to come. They were very active in the summer window, and after selling Tonali, who will meet the side he would have died for in this group, which is going to be a very interesting thing to see. How will Tonali perform against AC Milan? Probably very well, to be honest. Pulisic has started brightly for Milan, and bringing Okafor as well was a brilliant piece of business. And before that loss in the Derby di Milano, Milan were unbeaten, and I see them being able to top this group. But it will be very close between them and PSG, but I think Milan, they just have what it takes to top the group over PSG. Something about them, man. There's just something about them, you know. We move on to Group G, and in 4th place, I have Young Boys. The oddly named team from Switzerland comfortably won the Swiss Super League last season and currently found themselves in 2nd. But come on, guys, they play out of the Wankdorf Stadium. Like, these guys are not serious. What's going on here? This is a mockery. Sorry to any Young Boys fans out there. If you're a Young Boys fan, though, your hard drive might need checking. Anyway, they look to have been fairly active in the window, and a cursory look over their additions makes for a solid side, to be honest, but I don't think they have it in them to progress. This is a very tough group to get out of, and yeah, I think they're going to be bottom. Then in 3rd place, I've got Red Star Belgrade, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce their actual name because there's a lot of V's and a lot of Z's in there, and I'm just not built for that. Red Star are back in the Champions League after winning the Serbian Superliga and have started the season strongly as well, currently sitting in 2nd. They've been very active in this window, bringing in a lot of players, and it'll be between them and Young Boys as to who drops down and as to who finishes bottom. But I'm backing Red Star in this one. I think they'll drop down to Europa. I mean, this is really a group between RB Leipzig and Manchester City, so dropping down, is there really any shame in that in this group? I don't think so. Then in 2nd place, I've got RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig finished in 3rd last season after ending the season very strongly and currently find themselves in 3rd again at the start of this season. Leipzig lost some big players in Gvardiol, Szoboszlai and Nkunku, but did secure Xavi Simons from PSG, as well as Opienda from Lens and Šeško from Salzburg. This is a very, very solid squad, and they should progress, but unfortunately, there's one reason why they won't top the group, and that is Manchester City. The reigning champions of Europe and treble winners have once again been niced by the draw, and should easily be able to top this group. They won the Prem last season, currently find themselves unbeaten at the top as well. I don't think they've dropped a single point, and you know, despite losing some vital players, they've brought in some quality in the window with the likes of Kovacic, Gvardiol and Jeremy Doku all joining. There's no real reason why they shouldn't top this group. They've got an amazing squad. I think they're favourites to win it again, and I'd back that, to be honest, but anything other than topping this group would be a disappointment for Manchester City because they have one of the best sides in this competition, so they should be topping the group. If they don't, I don't know what's happening. And then in Group H, the final group, and quite a strange group to be honest, at the bottom of Group H, I have Royal Antwerp. Royal Antwerp won the league in emphatic fashion last season as Alderweireld scored the equaliser that eventually won them the title. They currently find themselves in 5th after a shaky start to the season though, and unfortunately for Antwerp, I don't seem to be able to progress in this group. It just looks like a bridge too far for them. I don't think they'll get anything from any of these teams, maybe able to nick a draw here and there, but I can't see them going any further than bottom, to be honest. I just don't think they've got it in them. And in 3rd place, I've got Shakhtar Donetsk. Shakhtar are back in the Champions League after topping the Ukrainian Premier League and currently found themselves top of the league this season too. Shakhtar have been brilliant domestically this season, as expected. Now, while they even saw their first choice keeper in Trubin leave in the summer, with Risnik stepping up, they've not been looking too bad. Now, the clean sheets haven't been flowing just yet though, and I don't think they've got it in them to progress through the Champions League, so I do see them dropping down, but I'm sure with time their keeper will get better and they'll start keeping clean sheets. But I don't think it'll be in the Champions League for them. I think it'll be more domestically or Europa, but yeah, I've got them finishing a third. I'm not sure if they'll be pushing the second place side for second place. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't watch a lot of Ukrainian football, I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, I think third, I think that's reasonable for them, to be honest. Then in second place, I've got FC Porto. Runners up last season and current table toppers, FC Porto find themselves back in the Champions League. I don't want to stress, they weren't runners up in the Champions League, just in the Premier League, okay? They definitely weren't runners up. They kept hold of Mehdi Taremi this season, who is their best player by far, and will be crucial to their European campaign. It's between them and Shakhtar to see who will progress and who will drop down, but I'm backing the Portuguese side in this one. I just know a lot more about them, and I think they play a better quality brand of football than Shakhtar do, but you know, Shakhtar could surprise me, who knows. I just think that Porto have the quality required to go further in Europe than Shakhtar do, and that's what I'm basing this on. You know, they've got a very solid squad, they're doing well in Portugal at the moment, so they should be able to progress, right? And finally, topping Group H, I've got Barcelona. I think Barcelona looked like clear victors of this group before a ball's even been kicked. They won the Liga last season by a comfortable margin, and I've started this season strong too, sitting top of the league yet again. They've done some great business despite being in financial turmoil at the moment. They've brought in Gundogan, Cancelo and Felix, all for little to no fees, as well as the emergence of 16-year-old Lamine Yamal from their youth ranks, who just looks quality. He's 16 years old and he looks amazing, so it'll be very interesting to see how he performs in the Champions League, but with the teams in the group, he's probably going to cook as well. I think they're nailed on for top of the group. Now, crazy things have happened. This is football after all, but from what I can see, Barcelona are just going to win the group. I don't think there's any arguments there. I'm not sure how far they'll go in the competition, but they should top the group for sure. These will be my Champions League group stage predictions. Some very interesting teams in there that I'm going to be, and some very interesting matchups I'm going to be looking out for. But I think, you know, it's fairly nailed on the teams who will go through. There are a few groups where it might be a bit up in the air, but I think for the most part, it's fairly nailed on. I think Manchester City will go far as well. I think they have a good chance of winning it again. Other than that, you know, I think Bayern Munich will go further than they did last season, maybe even the finals. Manchester City, Bayern Munich yet again, that'd be fun to see. No one else really stands out. Real Madrid, of course, they're always a very solid side with Jude Bellingham. Anything's possible for them, so yeah, it's looking like a good Champions League. Definitely going to be one to watch. I'm going to be trying to catch more games than I did last season, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, I've been O2GT. I hope you have enjoyed. If you've got any predictions for your own Champions League, leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. But yeah, those are my Champions League predictions, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Peace.